Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Mr. Freeze. It is about time they gave us some more comic, iconic Batman rogues. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts, McFarlane Toys, age of 12 plus, DC Multiverse Mr. Freeze. Here he is in the package. He has a display stand, collector's card, and he also has his signature freeze ray, which is surprising as Warner Brothers has a no-gun mandate, but we'll talk about that more in the video. One side of the package, Mr. Freeze, Victor Freeze. Other side, simply says Mr. Freeze. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case it helps anybody. And on the back side, here's an image of Mr. Freeze from the comics, but it's a completely different version of Mr. Freeze from the comics, and this is a figure of. Very odd choice. So no further ado, let's open him up. And I did end up getting two of these figures, one of which we open and enjoy. I wanted to keep an open my complete Batman-related unopened action figure collection. And I got this figure with a huge shipment of figures from figureneforall.com. It's a Canadian-based website. They have all the newest stuff for retail price. There's a 5% off discount code. Overall, this was cheaper than it would be to buy them at Target or Walmart. Cheaper than retail in the long run. Alright. Now that we have this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He comes with a display stand, a collector's card, and most importantly, his signature freeze ray. But before we take a look at those, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Mr. Freeze, a Batman villain. He's in his normal iconic look, modern version of Freeze. His real name is Victor Freeze. He's a scientist. An accident left him stuck in this cold suit. And in most versions, his wife is dying, and that's sort of his motivations. Try to cure her. So let's take a look at him. Start with his face here. He's got that helmet. His face is in that dome. He's got the blue skin, the red sunglasses, that stern, emotionless face. He's got some tubes coming from his backpack into his suit. Looks like we have a little bit of damage on his backpack there. Sculpt and detail is pretty nice. The canister's there on his actual suit. It all looks very nice. He's got sort of white, a little bit off-white colors, almost like a blue tint in here. Large belt. Looks like double-jointed elbows, double-jointed knees, big, bulky armored suit. But it all looks pretty good. You can see all sorts of, I don't know, different sort of mechanical pieces around his suit. A lot of contraptions. Looks pretty nice. And then, here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. I was pleasantly surprised to find the dome to be removable. I wasn't aware of that, but that'll give you a chance to pose his head inside of there and put it back on. And just a closer look at his face and head sculpt. Looks good. Stern. Bald, icy, emotionless Mr. Freeze. Now let's check out his accessories, and let's start with the boring stuff. It's that same McFarlane display stand we've seen 1,000 times before. Black perfect circle. It says DC on the bottom. It's got one peg for the peg holes on his feet. Very thin, very basic. Now for his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Mr. Freeze from the comics. Victor Freeze, Mr. Freeze. But it's a completely different version of Mr. Freeze from the actual figure. I think it's a very odd choice. I believe this is a New 52 Mr. Freeze. DC Direct make a figure of this. On the back side, there is a description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Now for his dome. It's really just a plastic dome. Simulates glass. It's got a little notch here so you know what side's going to be the front. Goes down quite a bit further in the front there. Here's Mr. Freeze without his dome, and here he is with the dome attached. Now for his freeze ray, which is very interesting. Warner Brothers has a no-gun mandate. Any officially licensed DC figures cannot go with guns in any way, shape, or form, even sci-fi type guns like this freeze ray. There are even some Batman figures that can't seem to come with their grapnel launchers. Now, maybe Warner Brothers easing up. Maybe this gun is weird enough to look that they allowed it to happen. Maybe it's because it has that ice permanently attached to it. I don't know. But I'll tell you, I like it. Hopefully they're easing up on the no gun ban. So, it's made in a silver color. Sculpting details just fine. Handle looks good. But has this ice, it's permanently attached. Now, personally, I would much prefer the ice to be on a little peg. That way you could have the gun by itself. Or blasting. It is nice to have the gun with a blasting effect. But most of the time, he's just going to be holding the gun, not with ice coming out actively. Beyond that, it is still really cool to have this thing. Now, it is kind of thin here. I feel like I could literally just twist this thing right off, but then it's going to leave me sort of a little broken looking piece here. Could easily cut it off, and I'm very tempted to do that, but for now, I'm going to leave it as is. What do you guys think? Freeze on, freeze off. Tempting, but I really don't want to ruin this thing right now. Here's Mr. Freeze holding his freeze ray. And looking closely at this freeze ray, if you wanted to remove the freeze blast, you'd actually have to cut it right along here. Looks like this white part is actually the tip of the gun. You could rip it off here, cut it off here, and it would look okay. But if you really want it to be right, you'd have to do it up here, which is going to be a little bit more difficult. Yeah, heat it up and exact a knife, no problem. I don't know. I'm probably going to keep it as is, but very tempting to cut that thing off. If I could somehow make it like a peg so it would come in and out, I would definitely do that. But that's far more trouble than simply cutting it off. Now that I've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, staying at about 7.3 inches tall, which can translate to about 18.5 centimeters. And if you go to the top of the dome, a good 7.5 inches tall, maybe even 7.6. Now for his articulation. First, you got this dome, which is removable. His head's on a ball joint. Rotate from side to side. Up and down about that far. Can't tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulder pads are soft. They're going to get out of the way. Shoulders on a ball joint. Shoulder pads easily go above his suit. 90-degree bend, no problem. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got the butterfly joint between shoulder and chest area. Cover that large gap and increase the range of motion. Bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows, they go in about that far. A little bit obstructed by the extra pieces here. His wrist can rotate, and it's going to be hinged as well. Ball jointed torso, rotate around, forward and back. Another one is waist, a lot harder to move that one, forward and back, giving him pretty good range of motion, especially for a big bulky armored figure. Legs, complete as a splits, not a ball joint. The McFarlane style hips. They go forward about that far, back not much. Rotation, it's minimal. Double jointed knees. And then his ankle here. Forward and back, rotate, tilt, rock, and to articulation. I notice the ankles are kind of on the older ball joints. I don't know if this figure was designed a long time ago, or if they just thought it looked okay because of the big bulky armor. But a lot of the newer figures have different kind of joints there that look a lot more seamless. In addition to that articulation, I overlooked he's got the bicep cut, but he also has rotation in the elbow, which is surprising. They usually only include that on figures that don't have the bicep cut. So he has arguably a little bit more articulation than a standard McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. Here's Mr. Freeze in the Arctic part of Gotham. He's outside of his base. He lives in solitude, only the polar bears around him. Meanwhile, in his base, he's thinking about his wife. While she's not gone, she's in this cryogenic stasis next to him, and he's in pain all the time. Of course, Mr. Freeze is always trying to cure his wife. He's holding the city for ransom. He needs a ton of money to fund his research. And of course, Batman's not going to let that happen. Batman's approaching Mr. Freeze's base, planning to take him down. As soon as Batman enters Mr. Freeze's base, he comes across a couple of Freeze thugs. He takes them out with a signature move, bashing their heads against each other. Batman pulls out his Batarang and is about to hit Freeze, but Freeze is too quick, pulls out his Freeze Ray, and freezes Batman. Mr. Freeze hits Batman with his Freeze Ray, and freezes him in a block of ice. Kind of reminds me of Han Solo trapped in carbonite. Freeze proudly displays both his wife and his new trophy Batman in the background. Of course, Batman is very resourceful. He knew he was fighting Mr. Freeze. He hid a very small laser in his glove. He's gonna escape. And since this is Freeze's video, I really don't want to show Batman take him down. So, to be continued until the next episode of D-Hunters Reviews. There will actually not be a conclusion, just so you know. Now let's check them out. Next is some other action figures, starting off with some other Mr. Freeze figures. Here's this McFarlane Mr. Freeze. Next to all of my DC Direct and DC Collectibles Mr. Freeze figures. This is actually the version of Mr. Freeze that's on the back of the package and on the collector's card. Very odd choice to use this as a source material, because it's obviously not the source material for the figure. And here he is, next to the DST, or Diamond Select Toys Gotham Mr. Freeze. Then, next to all of my Mattel Mr. Freeze figures. This has always been my favorite Mr. Freeze figure. This is the Batman comic line 6-inch scale comic Mr. Freeze. He's just the most sort of regular or normal comic Mr. Freeze out there, although he's a little bit short compared to today's figures. This new Mr. Freeze is going to replace him as my favorite in my collection. And here are all of my different Mr. Freeze action figures. I believe McFarlane's making another one. I thought I read that it was in the Page Puncher Wave 4, Batman, Robin, Batgirl, Mr. Freeze. They're actually up for pre-order at the CMD store, which kind of confirms that. Really curious if it's a repaint of this Freeze or something totally different. Here he is, next to 4 different Kenner Batman and Robin Frostbite figures. Yeah, much smaller scale, but back in the day it was cool to have some Mr. Freeze henchmen or thugs, especially officially licensed versions. Now let's check him out, next to some other Cold-themed DC figures. Here he is, next to all my different Captain Cold figures by DC Direct and Mattel. Got a bunch of them. I got 2 of most of these Captain Cold figures to use as Mr. Freeze henchmen. Always planned on repainting some of them, but never got around to it. And here he is, next to a Mattel Icicle. Then, next to McFarlane's DC Multiverse Frost King. McFarlane really needs to make a Killer Frost. Here's Mr. Freeze, next to a couple of different cold weather or anti-freeze Batman figures. We've got the McFarlane DC Multiverse Justice League Endless Winter Batman on the left, and then Mattel's Batman comic line Arctic Batman on the right. And some of these weird Batman paint variants might work as sort of an anti-freeze Batman suit. Here are all of the comic accurate, normal looking Batman villains that McFarlane has made. These are from different various comics and eras, but they're all in their sort of normal looks and the sort of modern Batman villains. These are from the Rebirth comics, Hush comics, Nightfall, Court of Owls. There are a ton of other Batman rogues they've made from different various forms of media that could fill in for your comic accurate villains, but to me the core of my collection is going to be the comic representations, normal, modern versions. And I realize a lot of time Catwoman is not considered a Batman rogue, but I'd lump her in there a bunch. Here are some of the other Batman rogues they've made from different various forms of media, video games, animated, and film. Now a lot of these, like Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, Penguin, Killer Croc, and Deathstroke, work pretty nice as fill-ins for your comic versions. Riddler, maybe not so much. Harley Quinn, yeah, pretty nice. Looking forward to the upcoming Arkham City Riddler and Dark Knight Two-Face. They're going to be nice sort of fill-ins for your comic version. But McFarlane really needs to get up and release those things. Now let's check them out. Next to some Batman figures based off the comics. Now McFarlane has always had a little bit of inconsistencies as far as the scale goes. You can see Mr. Freeze next to the Year 2 Batman, which is on that larger Hush or Three Jokers body. He seems a little too small next to him. Look where the shoulders are. But he seems more or less in line with Detective Comics 1000 or the White Knight Batman. I feel like McFarlane has kind of 3 different scales in their DC Multiverse line, small, medium, and large. Mr. Freeze seems kind of on the medium side of things, although if you consider he's in this big bulky armored suit, maybe he's better in scale with their smaller figures. Then, next to several more newer Batman figures from the comics. Like I said, he seems a little out of scale next to the larger figures, like Hush Batman or Three Jokers on the right. But next to the Page Puncher or Rebirth Batman, he seems right in line. Shoulders are a little bit taller than Rebirth Batman. Definitely seems like that's the right Batman figure to pair with this Freeze. I always thought this Batman Beyond Blight figure would make a good custom base for Mr. Freeze. He's got the armored suit, the dome on top. I kind of felt like he was a little bit too thin, not bulky enough. But if you look at Freeze, he's pretty much the same height and thickness. Now let's check him out. Next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to the Nightfall Catwoman, the Hush Batman, and the Infinite Frontier Joker. 4 different, sort of modern comic action figures by McFarlane. You can get these 4 guys at a pretty good price at a bundle at the McFarlane toy store. And here he is, next to the Kingdom Come Armored Batman and the Dark Knight's Metal Gladiator Batman. Then, next to the Jake Garrick Flash, Duke Thomas Signal, and the Con-El Superboy. And now, next to the Walmart exclusive Gold Label Vampire Batman and Eradicator, here's Mr. Freeze, next to the Target exclusive Deadman and Flashpoint Aquaman. And here he is, next to the Shazam 2 movie Shazam and the Amazon exclusive Tim Drake Robin. And here he is, next to the Amazon exclusive Batman Family 5-pack. Then, next to the most recent McFarlane Mega Figures, Mongol and Frankenstein. And now, with the most recent McFarlane Gaming Wave, we have the Arkham City Sick Joker and the Arkham Knight Scarecrow and Red Hood. Here's Mr. Freeze. Next to McFarlane's most recent DC Mortal Kombat 11 offerings, the Batman Who Laughs and Joker. And here he is, next to the McFarlane Toy Store exclusive, Hush Superman and Rebirth Kid Flash. Now let's check him out. Next to the most recent Build-A-Figure waves. Here he is, next to the Target exclusive Crime Syndicate wave, Collect-to-Build Star the Conqueror. And here he is, next to the Speed Metal wave, Collect-to-Build The Darkest Knight. Then, next to the Batman Arkham City wave, Collect-to-Build an undersized Solomon Grundy. And now, next to the Walmart exclusive Gold Label Black and Gray variants, here's Mr. Freeze, next to the 3rd wave of Page Punchers. This is a Flash-themed wave. We have the Atom, Flash, Heatwave, Grizzly Grodd, and both versions of Captain Cold. And here he is, next to the 2nd wave of Page Punchers, which is finally complete. This is based off Injustice 2. We have Green Arrow, Batman, Supergirl, and Dr. Fate. Then, with the 1st wave of Page Punchers, this is a Black Adam themed wave. Batman, Constantine, Superman, and Black Adam. And now, next to some more Target exclusive Gold Label figures, Ocean Master, and the 30th anniversary of Batman from Batman the Animated Series. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. And here are some more recent Target exclusive figures. Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern from Changing the Guard, Defiance Deathstroke, the Black Adam movie, Black Adam with Throne, and the Justice League Endless Winter Wonder Woman variant. And finally, next to some recent Walmart exclusive figures, Azrael in Batman armor, Parallax Hal Jordan, Rebirth Shazam, and the Speed Metal Dark Flash. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you don't know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane toy, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, next to some more McFarlane Toys. These are from different various video game properties. And now, next to some Jack-specific wrestling figures, here's Mr. Freeze, next to a store brand container of Cool Whip. I wanted to pull some out of the freezer to compare with Mr. Freeze for my random comparison in this video. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here he is, standing with some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. In theory, Mezco's Mr. Freeze should come out in the near future, but they've been delaying that guy for a long time. But not as long as their 89 Keaton Batman. Then, next to some Mattel, DC Universe Classics, and Multiverse figures. And here he is, with some Mayfix figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, he's a very nice Mr. Freeze figure. I've seen some people give him a custom paint job. Metallic blue, metallic gray or silver. Looks fantastic. He's a great figure. I would complain he could be just a tiny bit taller, and then if the weapon had a peggable freeze attachment, he would be excellent. He still is excellent. His accessory is fantastic. I love that they got this gun out. Articulation is very nice for a big bulky armored figure. His sculpt and paint job are excellent. I see no issues there. If I were to rate this guy, I'm going to give him a solid 8 out of 10. Hell, he's probably worth an 8.5. Just a couple of very minor flaws and nitpicks. Really happy to add him to the collection. He is now my favorite and default Mr. Freeze. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.